Hi, this is Martin Drummond with Progressive News. It's Tuesday, October 1st, 2019.
Let me start from the top here. He's the only Texas Democrat with an A rating from the NRA. So, this from the New York Times. The NRA's Democratic allies are nearly extinct. Support for the NRA has always been much stronger among Republicans and Democrats, both in Congress and in the electorate. But until recently, a significant minority of Democrats were on board with the group. Now, only 3 congressional Democrats, Representatives Sanford Bishop of Georgia, Collin Peterson of Minnesota, and Henry Cuellar of Texas, have A grades. Just 2 more, Representatives Jeff Van Drew of New Jersey and Kurt Schrader of Oregon, have Bs. There is not a single A or B rated Democrat left in the Senate. And of course, Cuellar receives NRA cash. When asked if he would return the money, quote, "Why would he do that?" said Cuellar's campaign spokesman, Colin Strother, when asked whether the lawmaker will return an NRA donation or give it to charity. Cuellar received $6,950 in donations from the NRA Political Victory Fund during his re-election campaign last year. He has received thousands of dollars in donations from the group since he was elected to Congress over a decade ago. And this is in a pro-Democrat district. So the excuse that a lot of these kinds of Democrats use, these moderate, or in this case, clearly conservative Democrats use, is they'll say, well, I'm in a district that is, largely Republican, so if I don't vote this way, well, they're going to vote me out. He can't even use that excuse. Cuellar's district went for Clinton by 19 points. This man has no excuse to vote this way, has no excuse to be in support of the NRA's agenda, has no excuse for the other things I'm about to get to here in a second. He's also, as I said earlier, an anti-choice politician. This from Time Magazine. All of the pro-life Democrats in Congress are men, and Henry Cuellar is listed there. And I have a link below if you want to read more about his positions on that.
Okay, this is where he's wrong. Okay. Whether or not they lose to a Republican or not is debatable, but what this proves isn't that where is it? Where did they say? Anyway, he pointed out that Hillary won by 19 points. That doesn't prove that it's a lefty, a progressive district. What that proves is that Hillary Clinton is a conservative candidate. That's why she did so well. He's got it backwards, It's not about the district being conservative or progressive or liberal. We used to call it liberal, but liberal's taken on such a twisted meaning now. I'd rather just call it progressive. It's about Hillary Clinton being conservative. That's how she beats a guy by 19 points, whatever he said it was. Dole, you just missed the boat on that one. This is Martin Drummond with Progressive News. Thanks for watching. And while we're at it, I'd like to point out that Democrats, if you want to say that Democrats are for open borders, I mean, you notice that the Republicans use that argument against us all the time, effectively. We lose lots of votes. I'm not pro illegal immigration, making illegal immigration legal. Just here, come on in. And I don't think a lot of Democrats are either. You know, the days of give us your poor and your abused and whatever it says on the Statue of Liberty, I think, you know, they're long over. I mean, we haven't had an open immigration policy in at least 50 years, probably more. We're not going to feed the world any more than we're going to be their police. You know what I mean? I mean, we're trying to be their dictator, but, you know, police is the idea of a good thing, you know, go around keeping the order, the Roman peace, you know, peace of the Romans. Well, that's not us. We're still going to continue to, so on a lot of issues, there's, you know, Republicans ought to face the fact that we're a lot alike. I don't believe in killing babies. I think abortion should be available, even as a form of birth control, up to a point. But once that's a baby inside her stomach, I don't believe in killing that baby. Not for any reason. Not in the case of rape. Just in case of the health of the mother. You know, if she wants to give it up once it comes out, that's fine. But you can't kill it. You can't kill babies as a form of abortion, you know, of birth control. So, you know, I mean, on immigration and abortion and on gun control. Yeah, I agree with all kinds of gun control. I agree with, you know, somebody says something like I said that, you know, people make me feel like I want to kill them, you know, and they do, because it's just something that people, I wasn't talking about like the actual, you know, somebody saying it because they're actually going to do it, like, or threatening to kill somebody, you know, to their face or whatever, like, I'm going to go kill somebody, you know. I wasn't saying it like that. What I was talking about was, I was referring to a person's involuntary reaction to being threatened, you know. I made that abundantly clear on the recording that I was making that day. I was basically making a recording like this one. You know, I was saying that people make me so angry I feel like killing them, you know. So in a second of anger, you feel like, God, I'd like to kill that motherfucker. And yeah, it's a legitimate feeling. And it can't be illegal. You can't be held responsible for the immediate anger that you feel towards somebody. Especially since you've never shown any inclination to actually carry through on something like that. It's just a feeling, you know, it just comes up in your gut and it just makes you mad. You know, I can give you a perfect example. I saw a picture of some motherfucker in a Walmart talking to a little girl. They had him on security cameras. And then he somehow tricked her into leaving with him, and he took her to his house and he raped and murdered her. And they showed pictures of the crime scene. And yeah, even right now, sitting here, I feel like, God, I'd love to kill that motherfucker. And it doesn't even take that to make me feel that way. Somebody having some kind of malicious feelings towards me or intent towards me makes me feel that way. I can't help it. I mean, that's just my initial reaction. Fortunately, they're not standing here in the room with me. But even then, I know I wouldn't do anything, like kill them or something, even if they deserved it, unless they came at me. And then they'd face whatever I was able to do in self-defense, right? So where is the fucking crime? And don't tell me that everybody doesn't have those feelings. Everybody does. I'm not unusual. I'm not some kind of monster. Because I am not the only person who feels that way. As a matter of fact, we have to admit that lots of other people feel that way. Otherwise, they wouldn't have killed somebody. So people who commit acts of rage, when they're enraged and they, and I don't do that. So, I mean, people got to figure this out. I know it's hard to understand. And, for those of you who are lucky enough to not have to deal with assholes and to never feel this way, I don't know who you are, because I don't think there's any way of doing that. I don't think there's any way of leading your life in a way that you don't end up dealing with assholes. And I can tell you one thing, the poorer that you are, the more likely it is that you've had to deal with this. And maybe it's because maybe people who have money, And I used to say this a lot, and I haven't said it in a long time, but until you're put in a situation, you really don't know how you're going to react. So somebody can say, well, I never have those feelings. You're weird. You're a violent person. You're okay. But you've never been put in a situation where you feel like that. Don't you at least feel that way when you're told a story about some asshole murdering a little girl? Okay, so then you admit that you have those feelings for that. Well, then you would easily have those feelings if you felt like somebody was threatening you or fucking with you in some way. Okay, how did we get on this subject again? So, gun control. So obviously gun control is linked up with this argument, right? People feel this way. If they've got a gun and the opportunity to use it, then it might turn out badly, right? So maybe I can see how people are trying to control these feelings and discourage these feelings, but I don't think that you can really do that. I mean, what we would have to do is teach people to be like me. Don't ever act unless you're in an immediate situation where you need to defend yourself. And you know what? This goes back a long ways, because I really didn't understand all this until I was 14 in Indonesia, and I took Taekwondo in Lebanon too, but they didn't teach you the philosophies. In Indonesia, my teacher taught me, you don't ever use this stuff except for defend yourself or somebody else in danger, right? And after that, through your life, you learn about when it's right to be violent and when it's wrong to be violent and all this stuff. And you see how it's being applied all around the world and wrongly, like our country murdering people around the world, and other countries, Syria, the beast Bashar murdering Sunni Muslims and genocide, and how to handle, your daily life. When to take action, and don't tell me that it's necessarily wrong for anybody else to do it, and the cops get to do it blank check, right? Because that's where we've really gone wrong. I mean, cops are murdering people every day in this country. So, I mean, I would love to get rid of guns altogether. Kind of back to the kind of, where knife killings are the big danger, like in England. Most people don't have access to a gun, so they carry knives. I do think that would be better, although people can kill, each other a lot with knives. But just the same, obviously guns are easier. So, I would love to just get rid of guns so that nobody has them, except for special units of the police who are called when somebody has a gun, and they need to deal with them. Other than that, they could come up with, some creative ways like net guns and, all kinds of things they could come up with for incapacitating people. They already have tasers and shit, but they could come up with, like phasers on stun. Hopefully they'll come up with something like that. Of course, I have no hope or faith in the police. At this point, I think they should have their guns removed more than anybody else, because they're doing more damage and more of a threat than what you're calling criminals. Okay, so given the current circumstances, I want a gun just in case I need it. Like they say, when you need it, it's too late, right? If you don't have one. And so, considering that everybody on my street has guns, and some of my neighbors are cops and they walk around with guns on their hips around their house and stuff, I want a gun too. I don't want them to feel like they can walk into my house and do anything they want, without the threat of retaliation. So of course I want a gun for retaliation or for self-protection. And if you want me to take a course or mental evaluation, I don't think that there's any reason for that. I think I've explained. And I wasn't guilty of terroristic threatening. They've fucked up on that one. They're fucking idiots. They can't tell the difference between a guy making a threat and a guy talking on his to his camcorder, car cam, making making notes for his news show. Shit. And they're unwilling to admit that they broke the law there, because unless they want to charge me with perjury, I'm the only person who knows I was talking to my car cam. I mean, you can draw some inferences by listening to the recording or watching my video from my car cam. That's the best way to know that I was talking to my car cam. But the main thing is that nobody else knows for sure I was talking to my car cam, and I know I was talking to my car cam. So unless they're going to charge me with perjury, that's their best way of knowing. Just saying, oh, I think it sounds like he's talking to the girl at the food stamp place. Fuck, man, that's not any kind of proof. whatever happened to, beyond a reasonable doubt? That doesn't go beyond a reasonable doubt. You don't know, just listening to a recording, who the person is talking to. You have to have some kind of indication. And every indication is that I wasn't. She put me on hold. I didn't ask her if she was back on the line. I was talking to my car cam. Dumb fucks. But they don't want to think that I was talking to my car cam. It makes them feel comfortable with throwing me in jail to think that I was talking to her. And it doesn't matter, because what I say in the recording isn't a threat. It may be trying to warn them that they're pushing their luck by pissing people off, and they are. I mean, generally speaking, if you talk to the women there, you don't get any problems. But as soon as you get on the phone with one of these new guys that they hired, these men that they hired, those guys they're not going to help you at all. They seem to enjoy watching you struggle to qualify. You know, the women tell you exactly what you need to do to qualify, given your situation, unless you don't qualify. But if you do, then, they explain it to you. And then you do it and everything's done. But when you get these guys and they're trying to trip you up and they don't recognize the fact that there's nothing to trip up, then you gotta, they're and there's plenty of other people who I've talked to who give me great stories. And I don't know, maybe nowadays with me raising a fuss, maybe they're backing off of that. But this Republican governor, I know he's in there, or whoever is working there now, they're influenced by them. Anyway, all of this, and what I'm really talking about is how a lot of Democrats feel strongly about, these are conservative issues, right? Abortion, immigration, gun control, and we have a lot in common. Where we differ is on social justice. So like, like taking care of your own population, your own citizens, making sure that they have what they need, including advice and help, but a roof over their heads, water, electricity, all the things that we know people need. And try and get them up on their feet to where they can be productive. And that includes, making them acceptable to the rest of the community, as in, getting them a place where they can take a bath or shower and toothbrush and, dental care and health care. Keep them, Okay, so some of them are broken beyond repair from this lousy system that we have now. And they're going to bear the scars of that. I mean, I've lost all my teeth because I was working poor from like 2004 to 2012. I couldn't afford dentists. So I couldn't afford to go in every 6 months and get my teeth looked at and get any cavities filled. You know, they could have kept my teeth together. But, you know, that's just the way the stupid ass conservatives, that's the way it works out for a lot of people. And yeah, I'll get some teeth before too long. You know, I can say that about Obamacare. Obamacare takes good care of the people with no money, like me. What it doesn't do is it doesn't work out well for other people who have money. Maybe low income to middle income. I'm not quite sure exactly how it works, but it's got something to do with these ridiculous premiums that health insurance companies charge, and maybe with the rules for what you can get out of Medicare and Medicaid. Like here in Kentucky, they won't pay for a pair of glasses. And my mom said that they charge up to $300. Well, you might as well just tell me I'm going to have to walk around blind the rest of my life, at least in one eye. And the other one's getting worse. I need some glasses. Holy shit. You know, I wouldn't care if you just had me go in and pick from different lenses and that fit into a kind of generic standard glasses, and I just clip them in until I get a pair of glasses that works, you know. I wouldn't care how you want to cut costs, just so I get a pair of glasses that I can wear, you know, all the time. They compensate for my left eye's just fucked up. I mean, everything's really blurry. My right eye, sometimes it gets blurry, and more as time goes by. So I know that it's going to happen. And I know it's the Republicans. I know that they're trying to eliminate as much as they can from Medicaid. Just trying to cut the budget so they can stick the money in their own pockets. I know that's what they're doing. I know that's what they've always done. So it's just greed, you know. We all know it's greed. And we all know how it works and all the myriad ways that it's being done. I don't think they want people to know that Republicans and Democrats really are not that different. So again, we're different on just the, you know, obviously judicial reform, because they're running the judiciary, they're the courts, you know, and the police, and so police reform, how they do things, and prison reform. You know, we may differ on those things. And I gotta say that Republicans are really bad people on those issues. I mean, they know that they're like really fucking people in the ass with that shit. You know, I mean, my conviction was a direct result of that attitude. And I talked to a lot of people when I was in jail. I'm glad I went to jail. Man, I got to learn all about it. I mean, those people, I hate to tell you this, but they're heroes. The only difference between them and you is that they tried to fight the system. So they had enough bad experiences with their bosses, and they just said, fuck this, I'm just going to steal, you know, or I'm going to just drown in drugs, escape from reality, or I'm going to make money selling drugs instead of working. or I'm going to steal from Walmart rather than having to pay for stuff which forces me to go to work for some asshole. I mean, you just have to really kind of link it all together, because it really is. So, these people, to me, when I was talking to them, and they're not that bad. I mean, being in a jail, they all feel like they have to play tough guy because they're all told that, there's fights in jail and stuff. But actually, there were less fights in jail than there are on the outside. I mean, you get harassed and stuff on the outside all the time. But in jail, even if there were a fight, the cops are in there in like no time and right on top of it. And the only fight in my cell was justified. I mean, some crazy. They put a guy who was definitely mentally ill. He told me, the only time I really talked to him, he was standing next to my bunk, and he started talking to me, and he told me that he believed that, what was it? He believed that God had I forget whether he was talking about UK, because that's something to do with my childhood with a guy I knew who believed that God put a university on Earth for him to steal from. But this guy said something about that God invented the bicycle for him to steal. Because that's what, and he said he'd stolen over 2,000 bicycles. And I had heard about him. He got ran over by a car in the bike lane. And his back was all fucked up. He had a big, like a hunchback. It was nasty. Had pins in there and everything. I thought that it was really bad judgment, putting him in there with us. And they put a pedophile in there with us too, and somebody in our cell knew who he was, and well, I told that story in a previous, but it became a big problem on the night before I got out, and I thought they were going to ruin me getting out, but apparently, as long as you don't do anything yourself, they can't ruin your getting out. Because they all laughed at me when I asked, is this going to mess me up getting out? Because they put my pod on, like, we couldn't have TV for 3 or 4 days, just because the guys had gotten together and said they wanted him out of our cell. I guess pedophiles are supposed to get a special cell, like a cell with just one person in it. They have them all around the thing. But technically, solitary confinement, you can't do that. I mean, you have to at least let them out and walk around once or twice a day or something. I don't know. I think it varies with each jail. But none of that bothered me, because I kind of enjoy being in a little room, and I miss the internet and things like that. I miss a computer, because that's kind of my thing, computers. I mean, basically, if you put me in jail with my own cell and a computer with internet access, and let me go in and out when I wanted to. Man, be awesome. Matter of fact, it's kind of like what we want for people on the social justice side, you know, a roof over their head, water, you know, water and food that's safe. And wouldn't that be lovely, having it delivered to your room 3 times a day and pick up your laundry and bring it back to you, you know, twice a week like they did in jail. I mean, other than being locked up and not having a computer and internet access, gee, I think jail could be a pretty good thing, you know? Anyway, there's a lot of stuff we have to do to make things right, because they're not right. You know, conservatives want you to believe they're right. They're constantly promoting themselves, trying to say what they're doing is right. But the fact is, all they're doing is maintaining a system that funnels enough money to them. And then everything else breaks down for lack of money. Oh, that's just, you know, either, you know, just the way things go and this isn't a perfect world and all that bullshit, which is bullshit. You know, because it is them causing it, not just social breakdown or whatever you try to blame it on. It is them who are doing it. And they won't allow anybody else to come in and fix that. So that's really the crux of the problem, right? Yeah. So you know, the only way that this stuff's going to get fixed is if we take away their power to stop us. At that point, we will be able to fix things. These things are fixable. And people have fixed them all over the place, many times. And then greedy conservatives get back in control and they break them again. But they have been fixed for long periods of time. You know, like NHS in Britain. Worked great for years. Worked great. And it didn't break down because of some flaw. Some kind of, you know, force meeting an immovable object or whatever. It broke down because greedy conservatives got in there and broke the system so that they could funnel money into their hands. I mean, that's all it is. So yeah, there are solutions, and we all know what they are. It's just a question of getting them in place and protecting them. And I think a good constitution will protect most of those systems once they're up. I really think that anybody who's proven that they're greedy and that they game the system that way, you know, I mean, even just for out of survival, because if you let us fix the system and keep it going, you don't have a survival explanation or an excuse, because you've got people like us who will take care of you, you know. So you don't need to make it legal for you to cheat in order to survive. I think it's really dangerous to advocate chaos just because you think that you are a survivor and that you will do well in a chaotic system, chaotic, greedy system where everybody fights over everything. I mean, sooner or later, man, you know, you don't want to be the 1% or 10% or whatever or the 45,000 people a year who die for lack of health care. You don't want to be those people. And I know that's why you're advocating a survival of the fittest type situation, but you're wrong. You know, it's one for all and all for one. I mean, even anybody can watch, you know, one of those old Three Musketeer movies and say, yeah, that works, you know. Everybody working to take care of everybody. So, of course, that's why I support Bernie Sanders, because he's kind of he's a one musketeer, right? He's us, not them. Or us, not me. Okay, well, this is Martin Drummond with Progressive News. Hope you enjoyed this segment.